Why NYU professor says instructors who are protesting should be fired. Oh, from CNN too, you know, not even like Fox News or anything. Just like, yeah, man. Hell yeah. From a School of Business professor, of course.
A Trojan horse, perhaps. I'm Michael Smerconish
For
in
Hamas.
Philadelphia. This week, the University of Southern California, where nearly 100 arrests have been made amidst protests since the university canceled its Muslim valedictorian speaker, announced it was now canceling its main stage commencement ceremony next month. They cited insufficient time to carry out, quote, new safety measures. It's the latest, most...
They literally just want to punish the students. They're just punishing the students. The only reason they're canceling the ceremony is because they know that every student who goes up there is going to do like a Free Palestine bit up there on stage with everyone watching. It's just going to be like a conga line of graduating students doing it, and they don't want that, so they're canceling it. It has nothing to do with security. Total bullshit.
High-profile ramification of the surge of pro-Palestinian protests disrupting campuses all across America. Students saying they have a right to free speech. Jewish students saying that speech is often anti-Semitic.
No, what citation? I see media pundits saying that. Most of the Jewish students that I've seen are protesting with the protesters. Totally, just saying it. Just whatever. Media just making narratives, you know? Whatever, just whoop. Got a narrative? Let's say it.
So what is the current reaction? Are protesters...
You look like a f***ing egg.
Modern-day Greeks who used a deceptive tactic to enter the campus and defeat the Trojans?
What?
Me, I'm sympathetic to the university presidents and administrators.
Always the best people to side with in these situations, by the way, you know? Me, I'm sympathetic to the university administration, the bloated bureaucracy that makes like hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, like sapping life and money out of the system while providing nothing in return. That's true.
Who now have to engage in a difficult balancing act. Campuses have become the staging ground for America's growing divide over supporting Israel as it retaliates for Hamas's October 7 attacks.
It's not a growing divide, actually. With every day that passes, more and more Americans are becoming supportive of the Palestinian cause. This guy is a Republican who became an independent like 15 years ago. He's a talk radio host, so you know, complete scum. It's always like that, isn't it? You know? It's always like that. Always, yeah, dude. I'm a self-described lifelong Republican and former GOP administration appointee. He left the Republican Party during the Obama administration. He hosts a morning radio show. Yeah. Exactly this kind of person. Like to a T, you know? Law school, obviously. Penn Law. Oh, man. This guy's got quite the rap sheet.
Hundreds were arrested at pro-Palestinian protests and encampments at several major U.S. universities around the country. Friday, Columbia University announced that it had banned the student leading the university's...
Regret to inform all of you that his suit looks pretty good.
...pro-Palestinian protests. A student spokesperson for Columbia's apartheid...
Oh, here it is. Here's the one TikTok with 27 likes where he says, or they, I don't know, you can never tell with these woke students or whatever, that they said some vaguely threatening shit about anti-Semitism and then got like immediately, what was it, expelled, and everyone denounced it. 27 likes. Juan Guy.
Divest Coalition acknowledged that in a past Instagram video he had said, quote, Zionists don't deserve to live.
Well, technically not anti-Semitic, but is there the possibility he's a plant? No, I remember watching the video, and the thing that they said in the video wasn't even this is out of context slightly. Can somebody provide that original video again?
Meanwhile, the movement is also...
All I'll say is there's a reason why they're summarizing the video and not just showing the clip.
...so proliferating to campuses around the globe, from Paris to Rome to England to Australia. Several American schools suspended classes or moved them online, and some campuses shut down completely. But I say campuses shouldn't close, nor should they permit tents. Tents aren't speech. Tents are trespassing. They need...
No, they're not. That's not trespass.
...to balance those interests, the interests of those who want to protest without hate speech or otherwise inciting violence, and within the rules established by these private universities, balance those interests while ensuring that the university community at large can carry on its functioning. For example,
this is how like civility-pilled conservatives go about suppressing free speech, you know? You have the like militant Zionist McCarthyite types who are screeching about how all these students are terrorist Hamaslings and how all of them hate America. And then there are people who are like this guy, while making this face, unironically saying, in this instance, I am sympathetic to the campus administration, a sentence that could only be uttered by the absolutely deranged, you know?
here in Philadelphia at the University of Pennsylvania, the interim president issued a letter to the Penn community on Friday night demanding that the pro-Palestinian protesters on campus disband their Gaza Solidarity encampment immediately because of alleged legal and university policy violations, adding that anti-Semitic graffiti on the statue in front of College Hall will be investigated as a hate crime.
That's already the case.
Collective that
Wow, that's quite the voice. I forgot.
people, some persons need to die if they have an ideology that results in the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. If there are people like that who exist, shouldn't they die? Zionists, they're Nazis.
I don't know. This sounds like Vaush rhetoric to me. This is making me homophobic. Sorry, y'all.
They're Nazis. They're fascists. They're supporters of genocide. Why would we want people who are supporters of genocide to live? I'm confused. Someone in the chat right now.
All right. But is he wrong? Whoa, being really presumptuous with a he right there, okay? Being real presumptuous. In all seriousness, guys, like very obviously, if you are in any way associated with the protest and you do this shit, like your fellow protesters should take you to like the room where they you know, they should take you to the ball pit. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is like op shit. Okay, why would the deep state even bother with ops when people like this exist? You know, it's called Fed posting for a reason, because this motherfucker be glowing.
This morning, 6 a.m., I went to the Penn campus. I wanted to see for myself. It's my alma mater for law school. Nobody seemed awake as I walked around the encampment. Had they been, I wanted to ask somebody, how many of you are students? I'm most sympathetic to the students.
Wow, what an interesting anecdote for you to share. I drove around and didn't see anything, but if I did see something, I would have done something. Okay, thank you. That was very good. Thank you.
Especially the seniors, who right now should be enjoying the last month of class and camaraderie, but are instead fearful, forced to study remotely, and now...
Oh yeah, dude. Seniors definitely not participating in this. Are you kidding me? Again, all of these are efforts to talk about the protesters as though they're an outside force, imposing themselves in the university. They're not students. The students are cowering in fear. They're not allowed to enjoy their stuff, which is total bullshit. These are the students, you know?
Denied the pomp and circumstance that they've earned. And keep this in mind, any member of the college class of 20...
Nobody ever mentions the counter-protesters are not students. Yeah! In so many of these pro-Palestine protests, the counter-protesters that show up are the outsiders. You have students who are protesting in favor of Palestine, and then you have a bunch of, like, grifting dipshits who show up with Israeli flags to yell at people, you know? Like, I saw this video literally earlier. Look at this. Look at this sad...
I'm here for
stupid bullshit.
We've been seeing all over the news all the craziness that's happening on college campuses, especially at UCLA, so I decided to come here for myself. Do you mind if I interview?
I'm not going to talk to media.
Excuse me, do you guys want to tell me what's going on here?
No, sorry.
No.
I'm not letting any media in the campus, just so you know.
I love the spooky music.
Are we allowed to ask you guys a few questions about it? A lot of us just don't feel comfortable.
I can direct you to media liaison.
We're not gonna interview with you today. We're not gonna engage with people that are gonna be pushing us.
Never seen anything like this in my life.
No, agitators aren't allowed.
Talk to one of our media.
They won't speak to me. No one will speak to me.
This is called revolutionary bureaucracy, where at a protest of like 1,000 students, everyone's like, yeah, you need to talk to this one guy called Doug, okay? Go talk to Doug over there. You can tell him he's got like a yellow hat on, and you go over to Doug, and Doug's like, sorry, I'm on lunch. And he's just standing there. He's just standing there. No, he doesn't have any food in his hands or anything. He's like, yeah, I'm on lunch, sorry. You have to wait a bit.
There's a desk over there with me.
I've spoken to them. They won't speak to me.
Well, then you can try again.
I've tried, and this lady specifically is telling me I'm an agitator.
Don't engage with agitators in this.
I'm just trying to understand what you're protesting. For some reason, no one from your guys' team will let you guys speak, and I don't know why you guys can't speak to me.
This grifting piece of shit, it was so desperate for content, to try to milk some content out of what is happening. People keep Fed posting. These grifting pieces of shit are so desperate to milk some content out of the protesters. But if you are a protester, you should not talk to anybody at all. Just don't do it. Okay, you're gonna end up like that on Instagram we just watched.
And speak to me. And like, this is so intimidating and scary for you.
It's so scary that everyone's just not talking to me. It's so scary. It's so... I was going to try to manufacture a narrative about how terrifying all you Hamaslings are, but you're not saying anything, so I have to manufacture that narrative with no evidence at all. And it's very clear I came here with a presumption, and I was coming here for a bias that I was trying to enforce with whatever. And I would clip all of you and force you out of context, so it made you look scary, but you're not saying anything, so I have to pretend this is scary.
And like, this is so intimidating and scary
So
for you guys to be standing here. I literally have walked around for the past 2 hours just asking peaceful questions. Like, what's going on?
Peaceful questions. See, look, she's even imitating the rhetoric she would have used if she had been able to manufacture that narrative. You're all violent and scary. I'm just trying to ask questions. I'm just trying to be reasonable. That was all she came here to do. This is why you don't talk to outside people.
Going on here today? Why are you guys here? And no one can speak to me. And you guys are laughing. I don't understand how this is funny. I genuinely wanted to learn from you. And I wish we could have ended in a hug.
Yep. See, exactly the like civility. All of this was rhetoric that was practiced beforehand. I wish we could have ended in a hug. Nothing has happened here. She's doing all of this absent any outside influence, you know?
That's actually what I hoped from this. That's my dream from all of this. That we could understand each other.
I think we need more barricade, guys.
Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. That was posted by her, by the way. She thought that made her look good. Montana Tucker. After seeing everything that on the news, I decided to go to UCLA myself. I can't believe this is what the world has come to. People not talking to me and giving me content, and it's getting ratioed into oblivion. Yeah.
2024 was likely a high school graduate in the spring of 2020. Back then, there were no traditional commencement exercises on account of COVID. So first an act of God, and now an act of cowardice is robbing them of graduation.
What? Protesting is cowardice? What?
At USC, the administration first capitulated to complaints about the controversial views of its valedictorian and then compounded its error by canceling other main stage commencement speakers, including director John Chu and tennis legend Billie Jean King, before canceling the main commencement altogether.
Okay.
I'm also suspect as to whether this is completely organic. This week on CNN, I saw...
See, again, this guy's narrative, it's all, this is all, he would say it's Soros, but that's not his bent, right? Like, this is like the civility line, like the older Republican line, right? Anti-American, it's coming from outside the house, that kind of shit.
Interview with a self-described 66-year-old gentleman who was drawn to the campus.
This is a good day to go to jail, as Martin Luther King said. I can't believe it.
Right off the bat, man. Hey, I want to make these protesters look unsympathetic. Let me find an old, friendly-looking black man who immediately invokes MLK Jr. I want to make these protesters look bad. Let me just summon an avatar of the last great civil rights movement that basically everyone is compelled to have positive memories of, because even in Republican circles, they still have to pretend they're not so racist that they hate MLK Jr., you know?
They're gonna start locking up senior citizens. I'm 66, and somebody had to
God,
come and support these young people. They're not alone. That's why I'm here.
Wow, that was terrifying. I'm having suspicions about whether these protests are organic. Let me show you the most sympathetic, likable clip you've ever seen in your life.
How many more of the protesters are...
Had he seen that clip beforehand? I bet he hadn't. He's doing this segment for the news. They queue up the clips in the show, in the studio. He's like, okay, yeah, here's the lead in, 66-year-old guy or whatever. He sees the clip play as it plays live, and he's like, I don't have anything to say about that. Wait, I was gonna like go off on how this all feels manufactured. I can't say anything about this, you know? Look at him.
Not alone. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, wait. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can go off on this one.
How many more of the protesters are not active students?
That's fine. That's a lot. That's not a secret. It's not a secret that they're not all students. Like, the vast majority are, but it's not a secret that they're not all. They're protests. Like, this was the case during the anti-war Vietnam protests as well. Like, mostly students, non-students could come in. That's how it works.
Consider this. In its spring 2024 survey of voters aged 18 to 29, the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics found that the Israel-Hamas conflict ranked way down on the list of issues of primary concern to young voters. The top 5 most important to this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Americans tend not to heavily prioritize foreign policy. That's always been the case. When was this when was this polling done? Like, this poll was released in the spring of 2024, but when was the actual polling date? You know?
This age group, inflation.
Actually, wait, I'm curious. Hold on. Harvard Kennedy. Okay, hold on. Harvard Kennedy School spring 2024 youth poll. I'm just curious when they actually got the data from. Here we go. So when did they? Okay, conducted between March 14th and 21. So it was definitely after, yeah, the conflict began. Okay, yeah. So leaving aside the absence of that potential hamper, like that bias, the idea that Americans tend not to be as concerned with foreign issues isn't that surprising.
Healthcare, housing, gun violence, and jobs. Israel-Palestine ranked 15 out of 16. By the way,
right next to student debt, by the way. Do you want to pretend that student debt isn't a big issue to literal active enrolled students in the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics? Or do you think it's possible that the question, like, wait, hold on a second. I have a feeling this guy's lying to me right now. I don't know. I have a feeling that this doesn't represent exactly what he says it represents. The table below shows the percentage of the time an issue was rated as more important than the issue was matched again. We identified 16 prominent areas of concern, asked survey respondents in a series of randomized matchups which one of the 2 paired issues was more important to them. Wait, 2 paired issues? Which one's being paired against which one? Wait, percent that each issue wins against the field. Oh, so this is just like a comparison against other random issues? And for what? Like, electorally or generally more important to them? Okay. So the average student found Israel-Palestine less important, I guess, than jobs or inflation. It's not even like an indication of how they feel, but rather like a comparative assessment between these factors. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if this is saying what they want it to say, you know, like foreign issues versus American issues.
Beat out just student debt. I don't underestimate the significance of the situation in Gaza, especially where famine is a real risk. Netanyahu,
it's not a risk, it's happening, but, you know,
who seems intent on moving into Rafah. And NBC is now reporting that an investigation into 7 deadly airstrikes has found that Palestinians were killed in areas of southern Gaza that the Israeli military had explicitly designated as safe zones.
Shocking.
Still, it's curious that there was no similar campus
Curious.
activism on abortion rights, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, or threats to democracy.
Why would there... First of all, why would there be campus protests on the Russian-Ukraine war? Something we're not involved... It's not like America is heavily investing in Russian arms and protecting Russia in the UN, or like, that's okay. Second of all, as for the abortion issue, there have been constant ongoing protests. The main difference, though, is that universities are generally packed with people who are pro women's choice. And the reason what's happening at Columbia is happening right now is because the University of Columbia is invested in Israel. Like, the university has heavy financial ties to Israel, you know? Like, that's an issue. America is very economically intertwined with Israel. There's levels of support. that are like dispersed all across our society. Whereas with the abortion issue, it's more of a like militant Christian Republican evangelicism thing, and that's not really a force on campus for the most part. Like if you were protesting in favor of like the right to have a choice to have an abortion or whatever on campus, like what are you protesting against, right? You know, you normally need that like that sort of contrast in an environment to cause the protests. The same thing happened with the Vietnam War protests. The Supreme Court was literally barricaded when protests broke out. No, but he's talking about university protests. I'm just saying this is like really dumb. You know, this is like a very stupid, yeah.
Even if the current situation is the result of astroturfing, those
a completely unsubstantiated claim, just completely waffling, manufacture a narrative. Let's go, man. Just fucking again, man. When it comes to the Zionism stuff, the media sure is acting the way that the crazy Twitter leftists say the media acts, right? Like for the most part, I think mainstream media tends to be a relatively good place to get information. But when it comes specifically to everything involving Israel and Zionism, there's such a disconnect between what the American people care about and what they want to hear and what they're interested in, and what the like broader investment is. Like the government mostly just with its like protection of Middle Eastern interests. It's so top down, it's insane. It's like an anti-populist issue, you know? It's like a kind of reversed like technocracy, where the more like detached from reality you are, the more likely you are to be some kind of militant Zionist.
Protesting have a right to be heard, but not a right to interrupt and overtake the ability of their classmates to complete their term and don their cap and gown.
This is what every anti-free speech person says. They're pro-free speech. They're pro-campus disruption. I bet this guy was totally okay with Milo Yiannopoulos going to like Berkeley and disrupting the out of everything for no purpose other than to disrupt the out of everything and free speech and whiny college campus students and blah, 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 blah. But then you have an actual genocide that is literally being in part financed and funded by Columbia University because of their investment in Israel and blah, blah. And then it's like, well, actually, you know.
My next guest teaches at one of the campuses affected by the tumult at New York University, where protests, including intimidating chants and several anti-Semitic incidents, NYU called in the NYPD for help. Scott Galloway joins me now. He's a professor of marketing at NYU Stern School of Business, host of the Professor G and Pivot podcasts.
Wow, that's crazy, man. An NYU business professor with a shaved head, a shitty blazer, and a chain who has a podcast. Fantastic. If I could like conjure if I could like, what will this guy look like based on what I know this conversation's going to be about? Oh my God. Freakonomics ass.
And author of multiple best-selling books. His newest, already a bestseller. It's terrific. I've read it.
The Algebra of Wealth, a Simple Formula for Financial Security by Scott Galloway.
Algebra of Wealth, a simple formula for financial security. Scott, I'll ask you about the book in a moment. But first, should USC have canceled its main graduation?
No.
Good to be with you, Michael. Logistically, I think they have to ensure the safety and
because he doesn't want all those students being pro-Palestine. Yep.
Like things were getting kind of spinning out of control. So I empathize with university leadership that's trying to thread the needle between free speech while at the same time maintaining a safe environment for its students. I would argue, though, that the balance is a bit skewed. I think universities have slowly but surely decided that they're more from centers of excellence to institutions that create a political orthodoxy or are charged.
What the f*** are you talking about? How can you say there's a political orthodoxy at universities when they're protesting against the university right now and the university is at this moment ordering them to disband? This guy is anti-union? Of course he is. Union membership is down 50% in the last 30 years. I'm a proud union member. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, because you're a professor. But unions are no longer seen as a solution. The best unions are minimum wage laws and competition. That's right, guys. You don't need a union. You need competition. That's true. Thank you. Great. Phenomenal.
Charged with social engineering. And
social engineer? What is this guy talking about?
What you have here, in my opinion, is a bit of a double standard, Michael. I think
he's talking about how universities are sites of political orthodoxy while a video plays of police being called to crack down on student protests. Like, does nobody watching this understand what a clown show this is. Yeah, universities are basically just sites where like everyone's like forced to agree through social engineering, even though the students are protesting the administration. The administration's threatening to suspend people. Hundreds of people have been arrested. The police are being called down to crack in. Just like total political orthodoxy, you know?
The vast majority of the protests are peaceful protests. You know, they're 19. I cut a wide berth for young people and their rights to say things. But
making it sound like their concerns are just like them being young, feisty kids rather than like them actually being concerned with something material.
You know, the analogy I use, Michael, is if I went down to the plaza at NYU in a white hood and started saying Dylan Roof, the gentleman, the young man who killed 7 people at a black church in Charleston.
Okay.
And I started saying globalize Dylan and held up a sign that said, you know, lynch the blacks, for example, or some sort of hate speech like that. I don't think there'd be a lot of nuance or context needed. I think I would never work in academia again. And if I started inciting the type of behavior where there was harassment of any special...
What is... Yeah, okay. Sure, what?
Interest group. I believe that if it got out of control the way it has in some of these campuses, I think they'd call in the National Guard. And I think what a lot of Jews...
Wait, you just said it's peaceful. What the fuck did Dylan Roof have to do with... What are you talking about? Where did that come from? What are you yapping about? Just like the state mandated, like, let me make these protesters sound scary. How do I do that? Something, Dylan Roof, something.
They're concerned with is that it seems like free speech is never freer when it's hate speech directed at Jews. So I would argue the campus leadership has erred on the side of, quite frankly, being a little too lenient to individuals who, for whatever reason, correctly or incorrectly, it devolves into emotion that makes people feel unsafe. The bottom line is, Michael, a lot of us just don't understand that a young Jewish girl leaving the library to go get a manicure is somehow their mortal enemy. I think young people, quite frankly, picked the wrong enemy here, and it's just gotten a little bit out of control.
What the fuck is he talking about? Literally, what the like, actually, this guy is on CNN.
So you heard, or perhaps you watched the film footage that we showed, the map of the country where the growth of these protests has now exploded across the U.S. and perhaps worldwide. What accounts for it, and do you believe it to be completely organic?
Well, there's some strange things. I went to the NYU protest. 40% of the tents were the same tents at Columbia. So there's something very coordinated.
I've seen videos panning over the tents. You can like, it's just big tents. And you know what? It is largely coordinated to the extent, I imagine, that there are probably some of the more well-off students there buying like multiple tents, like just ordering a bunch off Amazon or something.
Going on. I think it's a variety of few things. One, I think that a lot of students incorrectly, in my view, conflate what's going on in Gaza with the civil rights movement. Two, we have not done a great job, or we in colleges have created this oppressor and oppressed orthodoxy. And the easiest way to...
Classic. Literally, like, this guy is waffling so hard. This is literally like greatest hits of like stupid, zero IQ, conservative dogma bullshit. Just absolute brain rot. This guy should be fired from his professorship purely on the, like, from this alone. This guy's like 50 IQ tops. This is insane. It really is remarkable how much the illusion of meritocracy has been dispelled. Like today, you know, we used to think that our politicians and our business leaders and our professors were so smart, and then you go and you actually look at them talk, and this is what they're like, you know? This is what they're like. Admittedly, he's a business professor, so he's not like a real professor, you know, but yeah.
To identify an oppressor in the minds of many of these young...
And mind you, by the way, he's doing this oppressed-oppressor dynamic is woke bullshit nonsense right after saying that free speech only applies when you're being hateful against Jews. He literally did that thing. Also, he's dressed terribly. This guy is dressed wretchedly, okay? This, unironically, this looks like an Alibaba blazer. It's not, in addition to it fitting him so poorly that you can see it crumpling on his shoulders while he's sitting, and the fact that, like, I don't even, how does this happen? What is this made out of? Like, it's not even a collar gap. It's like a maglev, where the rail on his, in the inside of the collar and lapel is like being repelled from the necklace that he's wearing, and it looks like shit, and it's lumpy as hell, and he's wearing a V-neck shirt with it. It's insane, genuinely. How the chain hangs killing me. The chain looks like shit. It's way the too close to that V-neck line. It just makes it look like the collar is asymmetrical or something. It looks like shit. He's in the Turtle Club. He's in the Turtle Club, okay?
Young people is how white and how rich you are. And ground zero, correctly or incorrectly, for whiteness and richness is Israel and Jews. Also, just to be fair, Israel has not draped itself in glory. Netanyahu has struck some deals with the far right, including very bigoted members of the Knesset.
Struck some deals with, as opposed to like worked with them completely hand in hand.
For settlements, we've seen Israel go from kind of the David to the Goliath. So the atmospherics are not good here.
Israel's been the Goliath for like 70 years. It's been the Goliath for a while, okay?
And then finally, I think there's something bigger going on, Michael. I think that you have young people who are enraged by the lack of opportunity that they're presented with. I think that protesting is kind of the new, if you will, sex. Young people aren't having as much sex. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but for the species to survive, you have to have young people connecting in terms of romantic opportunities. And also for the species to survive, you get a dopa hit from gathering together and fighting off a perceived enemy. And I think they're...
Can you believe that not that long ago, CNN was maybe the most trusted and well-developed news station in the world? CNN had the money and the apparatuses, the framework to be the most comprehensive news show basically ever. You know, wherever it was needed, whatever it was needed for, to cover any issue, to get information faster, better fact checking, like everything. The potential quality, like 30 years ago, I'm thinking a little while before that, like, you know, but yeah.
Erring on the latter, if you will. I think they're on the hunt for what I'd call
the 70s. It reminds me, didn't Jon Stewart say this? Didn't Jon Stewart go off on CNN when Tucker Carlson was on Crossfire? No, wasn't he talking to Larry?
It was 2004. John Kerry was the Democratic presidential nominee facing George W. Bush. And I thought, I was watching it, I said, well, this is going to be a funny show.
Can I say something very quickly? Why do we have to fight?
CNN, you gonna f this up too?
The two of you, can't we just say something nice about John Kerry right now?
I like John. I care about John Kerry.
And something about President Bush.
Hey, you all recognize that guy? Oh, not this guy.
Deployed soon?
I think anyone who enjoyed paying attention to the news and watched The Daily Show will forever remember Jon Stewart going on Crossfire and reading those guys, the riot act.
You're doing theater when you should be doing debate, which would be great.
No, it's
not honest. What you do is not honest. What you do is partisan hackery. And I'll tell you why I know
John Kerry on your show, and you sniff his throne, and you're accusing us of partisan hackery?
Absolutely.
You've got to be kidding, man.
You're on CNN.
Say,
the show that leads into me is puppets making crank phone calls. What is wrong with you?
Comedians and satire, when done right.
This wasn't the clip that I was thinking of. It was CNN. He was talking to Larry King, I'm pretty sure. Oh, he just went off on CNN over and over again, man.
What's happening, baby? Okay. Can I tell you something? You made the right choice. You are leaving this place. You know what you are? You're the last guy out of a burning building, my friend.
John.
You are.
Stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on
we're
CNN
on now,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was like the pre-show banter.
No, we're on.
Oh, okay. Listen, you're really leaving this place with a great infrastructure, and I think you've done. I think it's done a wonderful.
Thank you, John.
You're a real Parker Spitzer.
First get to.
Wouldn't it be nice to not have so much fantasism? Wouldn't it be nice if conflict and the false urgency of the 24-hour news networks, of which you very wisely have decided to walk away from? By the way, I think they've made a brilliant choice by bringing in a British guy no one's heard of. I think that is, when I'm thinking about...
Ironic, considering what would happen to The Daily Show. when Jon Stewart left.
Floating a sinking ship.
I know he's not British, but
what do I want to bring on it? A guy that people are going to tune in and go, who's that? And why is he speaking so funny?
All right, back just
where's the bit that I was thinking of?
Do you have no respect for them?
No. It's like you walked out in the middle of this and said, hey, I was in the bathroom and a guy mentioned to me, you know.
Well, these are human beings and they're tweeting us. Do you have no respect for them?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who they are. They could be anybody. They could be pretending to be who the hell knows who they are.
Here's where they are.
Right.
They're asking this. What you thought about CNN, us, firing Rick Sanchez after he called you a bigot.
Now, was that 140 characters? Because that sounded like a lot more than 140 characters. It sounded like somebody sent you a double or a triple tweet.
It may have been a double tweet.
How can we do we're on a news program and you're saying to me, so there's a tweet.
Okay.
Couldn't you have thought of that? But isn't that a question you probably could have thought of yourself?
But we'd like to involve
I love John. I'm not going to find the bit that I'm looking for, and that's okay. I just like, man, now let's go back to CNN today.
Mortal enemy. And the reality is, if you type in to Google anti-Semitism and pick any century in the last 3,000 years, you're going to find multiple instances where the world decides that Jews are the mortal enemy. And then finally,
thank you for your wise input. Thank you. That's great.
And I know this sounds paranoid, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Then find it,
Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Which they view the world is oftentimes or predominantly TikTok. And on TikTok, Michael, there are 52 pro-Hamas videos for every one pro-Israel video.
Pro-Hamas videos. Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. NYU professor, everyone. This guy is responsible for educating the next generation of sociopaths who will, get into VC or do a startup and then like sexually harass their secretary and then leave on a golden parachute, We're finding fake racists everywhere. Spoke to Sam Harris about wokeism. Great, phenomenal stuff. Man, I take it all back. I'm with the conservatives on this one. Teachers' unions really do let you get away with too much. I think you should be able to fire professors for more. Somewhere in this interview. Well, this interview is 15 minutes, though. That's pretty long. Oh, good Lord, Benjamin, are you joking? But thank you, though. College professors don't have a union? Well, this guy's in a union. This dipshit. Yeah. Good Lord, what is happening in there? A poorly recorded video in 2024 on YouTube. Yeah. Actually, it was uploaded 12 years ago. Whoo, dilly. Guys, I'm afraid it's not all fun and games. There's actually... Found better link. But I'm still not looking through a 17-minute video right now. Unless I find it being referenced directly. No, this is Fox. They're not shitting on CNN here. This is Fox. No, this is a different interview. I'm familiar with this interview. No, this isn't it. Benjamin, you should know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure the CNN thing was directly with Larry King. He shits on CNN on Fox. Yeah, but this isn't what I was thinking about. I remember it being with Larry King.
Because the bias of the
are indefensible.
The bias of the mainstream. Oh, I'm not saying it's defensible.
No, I remember this interview. This interview between Jon Stewart and Chris Wallace was one of the most influential of the year, without a doubt. Like, an insane number of people paid attention to this. His interview. Chris Wallace, this was the guy who would then go on to host the presidential debates. Chris Wallace is huge. Less so now, but Jon Stewart really tore into him here. I remember this. I remember watching this back when I was like in high school or something. From 2013. Was it released 2013, or is that just when it was uploaded? It might have been a little after high school. Like, is he large, or does he just have a lot of cred? I mean, he hosted the presidential debates. Meanwhile, coming from the pro-war camp. Oh, I saw this. I hope they rape you. If this was a pro-Palestinian protester, it would be like mainstream international news 24/7. We'd be talking about it for months. But because it's a pro-Israeli woman, by the way, not a student, huh? Do these two look like students to you? These are evil Hitlerites who came onto campus to tell students, I hope they rape you. That's what they're doing right now. But is this going to make like international day? Is this going to be like talked about ad nauseum on MSNBC and CNN and Fox and everyone else? No. Can you rewind a teeny bit? Sure. I'll turn it up. Yeah, pretty hard to mistake there. Wait, she said that? Are you blind? Can you see her talking? Her, she said that. Why do I have to explain the content of the clip? You're looking at it. That was like completely enunciated. There was also this one where he called some black protester the N-word. Oh yeah, I saw this too. Oh look, by the way, more pro-Israeli protesters who are clearly not students. Do you think this guy is a student? Like, I don't know, he could be. Do you think he is? Or do you think he's an agitator from outside? Do you think this, like, douchebag gym bro who got a haircut 5 minutes before coming here, do you think he's a student? I don't think he is. I don't think he is. This guy doesn't look 20 to me.
Hey, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Hey, you all do shit, keep it going. Do something about it right now. Do something right now.
In fairness, I think if you have a fade this clean, you should be allowed to say bitch-ass N-words. Like, he said it with the A, not the ER, you know? I think that this, he's an Italian 21, okay? Yes, that's true. This is an Italian 21. If the fade's good, you know, the race is a social construct, okay? Saying he called someone the N-word kind of is, like, the implication isn't there, okay? This guy clearly just says, like, the soft A pretty often, because of the fade. Oh, he's a boxer, apparently. Vaush, they can still be students. Yeah, but they're not. This is the thing. Like, they can be. Anyone can be a student, but they're not. The real manufactured protesters here are the pro-Israeli ones. They're the ones who are coming onto campus. We got some bad news, guys. Talks between Columbia University and the protesting students have fallen through. They have given an immediate dispersal order, one which takes effect in 18 minutes from right now, or face suspension. Urges encampment participants to leave, warns of interim suspension as demonstrators vote to stay. Yeah, the efforts to identify all of the protesters there are already underway, so mass arrests are likely to follow. Here. Informing individuals present they have until 2 p.m. to clear out, identify themselves to a university official, and commit to abiding by university policies through June 30th, 2025, or the date of the conferral of your degree, whichever is earlier. It's important for you to know the university has already identified many students in the encampment, the notice reads. If you do not identify yourself upon leaving and sign the form right now, you will not be eligible to sign and complete the semester in good standing. If you do not leave by 2 p.m., you will be suspended pending further investigation. So they're basically saying like you will break now, or we will like legitimately just annul your you will be academically. Yeah, unambiguously fascist. What incentive does the college have to rat in their own students? Nobody is in favor of this except the campus administration. Keep that in mind. 2 p.m. was an hour and 49 ago. Wait, hold on. Was it 11 and not 1? I remember there being 1s. By 2 p.m. Oh, sorry. I had it in my mind that it was 1 p.m. Okay, this has already happened then. Yeah, never mind. This has already happened. My apologies. I 2 1s, 1 1, 11 1, same numbers really. What does it matter? Yeah, no, this has already happened. The only people who are in favor of this is the campus administration, and that is because the campus administration represents an enormous body of wealth, and a lot of it is heavily connected to Zionists because it's connected to wealthy people, conservatives, to Israel itself. It's just like the university administration in many cases is just like an amorphous blob of moneyed interests, and a lot of them just happen to have ties to Israel or Zionists because a lot of wealthy people are conservative, and conservatives tend to be Zionists, you know? Simple as. Ducky Lamar, link it. The students still seem to be there via AP livestream. If you're looking at the livestream and you're saying that, you could supplement your message by providing the livestream so that I could click on it rather than having to go search for it myself. Oh, literally just front page of AP News? Gotcha. Well, that was easy. I haven't killed any children today. Such is my commitment to the Palestinian cause. Hold on. From Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine, who have been leading a lot of this, as I understand it. From the report, Dean Rosenmetsch has also convened meetings with GS veterans who served in the IDF, directing them to counter pro-Palestine student activities and disrupt pro-Palestinian advocacy on campus. I love that people are manufacturing the narrative that the pro-Palestinian protesters are like an op. Meanwhile, people are coming in by like the counter-protesters are all from outside the university. They're bringing in cops, they're bringing in the state guard. They're like, yeah, man, just hire vets, whatever, clear anything, you know? Like, it's insane. You know, this is how propaganda works. Yeah, the manufacturing, the consent manufacturing taking place here is insane. It's psychotic. You know, this is some of the worst that I've seen in a long time. I mean, obviously, it was really bad towards the beginning of the genocide of the Palestinians as well. But it feels like all of that like hysteria has been redirected now into this specific case. Dean Rosenmetsch has been convened meetings with GS veterans who served in the IDF, directing them to counter pro-Palestine student activities, actively disrupt the pro-Palestinian advocacy on campus. These meetings are part of a broader pattern where she appears to promote an exclusively pro-Israel stance within GS. In March, she invited prominent American military veterans in the GS community to an Israeli vigil, which was criticized for its political overtones and negative portrayal of Palestinians, describing Gaza Strip residents as detrimental to Israeli society. Cool. Such actions by Dean Rosenmetsch, which seem to encourage division among students over global political issues, are particularly troubling for her role as dean of an undergraduate school. Her influence and position have been used in ways that foster disunity and create conflictual relations among students. Just remember that, like, universities are not about providing education. You know, to say that a university's job is to provide education is to say that the job of McDonald's with an attached playpen is to provide exercise. You know, like, the education is just the bait. It's just like the little like key they jangle in front of you. Overwhelmingly, the economic engine that is a university is like sports. It's in land acquisition. It's real estate, you know? Yeah, universities are hedge funds with a library. Exactly. I guess all these guys are getting suspended. What does Columbia University actually invested in? I don't actually think the investment is much. Universities are like you know, hedge funds with libraries attached. Probably a very tiny percentage of their investment is actually connected to Israel. The bigger issue is the fact that in spite of that, they're not willing to divest that because there are a lot of donors or you know, trustees or whatever who are Zionists or conservative or whatever else. It's more of a symbolic action, you know. The removal of that investment, the divestment in that sense, would be very possible for Columbia University. Like, it's not like half of their assets are tied up in Israel, right? That wouldn't really be possible for them to divest. It would be ruinous for them. But it's like probably a pretty tiny percentage would be my guess. I don't know, maybe like 1%, like 0.5%, you know? Maybe not even that. So the divestment is more of a like ideological thing, right? It's more of a like show that you're on the right side of this. It's something the university can do, which is one of the reasons I think these protests are good, because like they're not demanding anything super crazy. It's a pretty reasonable ask. It's doable. The administration is just, you know, kind of psychotic. Dual degree program between Tel Aviv University, Columbia. I don't know if this would be the investment necessarily. You know, there's a difference between financial investment and like degree programs with Tel Aviv University. Obviously, even people in Israel deserve educations, right? I'm not really aware of the exact extent of the investment, only that I know it's a very small amount. It's more of a symbolic thing, in addition to the broader protests against the behavior of the dean, who, as you know, like as we literally just read, has been has been doing some pretty sussy shit. More students are getting in on the protest. I mean, yeah, like if their response to the order for dispersal is for more people to show up, then that is a strategy. Whoo, boy. I hope the police don't crack down on this as hard as they possibly could. At least 1,000 students at Columbia University are currently encircling the interior campus in an attempt to protect the Gaza Solidarity encampment, which was ordered to disperse by 2 p.m. Yeah, they're trying to surround this encampment. There's been some worrying leaks about that dual Tel Aviv stuff. Leaked document from Columbia admin detailing discriminatory admissions policy for the Tel Aviv dual degree program, disproportionate financial aid given to Tel Aviv dual degree students, bias from the Dean of General Studies. What? There seems to be a complete absence of Arab or Muslim students from the program. I would have to really look into this to decide if this was like meaningful or if it was overstated. You know, I would really need to look into this. The Higgs crouton, I don't think those asks are reasonable. I think that if the university made meaningful concessions but kept using Microsoft, they would be fine, you know. Yeah, high progressive, but it can take a while to follow up on stuff like this and determine the extent to which it's legitimate or how much of it's overstated, and I'm also just looking at one report on it. Hmm. Oh, hello, SDL, person who's always right. Columbia's investments in pro-apartheid companies are mostly through index funds, like a BlackRock S&P 500 index, which includes Caterpillar, military bulldozers, and U.S. military firms. There are sustainable/green/socially conscientious index funds which don't. Yeah, I wonder, because the problem ultimately is that you can't even talk about any of this because like, the university isn't willing to discuss any of this. Like, the university has been completely reasonable. You can't blame the protesters for the wide berth of their claims or of their demands when the response from Columbia U and from the world broadly has been psychotic. If your dean has been psychotic, if like the constant threat of academic disbursement or like the police knocking you up one, you know, if that's looming over your head, you can't really blame the bunch of student protesters for not, like, you know, fairly moderating the extent of the claims they want. Like, that's the point of the negotiation, you know? Another UT Austin crackdown is happening. Is this also live? Live updates. Pro-Palestinian protesters set up surprise encampment on UT Austin campus. Having fun over there? Get rewind.
I was pissed. Disappointed. At what happened here.
We demand that the students not face disciplinary action. Not face disciplinary action. The occupation has got to go. Hey, hey. The occupation has got to go. Hey, hey. The occupation has got to go. Hey, hey.
The mistreatment of students that was demonstrated yesterday, the egregious abuse of power by UT police will not be stood for, and we will not accept it here at this campus.
Woo! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! It is an opportunity for us to listen to Palestinians. Hearts all out! Hearts all out! Hearts all out! We answer the call to support the Palestinian people.
All right, we got it. Genuinely don't know how liberals freak out about Russia arresting anti-war protesters, but see this is fine. What was that thing Sean said about J.K. Rowling and a broader critique of liberalism? There's no such thing as bad systems, only bad people. So the idea of, like, hardline militarized police cracking down on student protests in response to injustice, that there's no, like, definitive whether or not that's good or bad or anything. But if the good guys are doing it, like, say, the universities in America or Zionists or the police or whatever, it's fine. And if it's like the bad guys doing it, like the Russian military, the Russian police, that's not fine, you know? They meant experts, not deniers. Yeah, I know. I was being sarcastic when I said anti-Semites. Anyone who's made it their job to study the Holocaust in an actual academic setting is without a doubt one of the least Hitlerite human beings in the world. Like, it is difficult to imagine any group of people less Hitlerite. No, Vaush, you said deny. Did I say deniers? Oh, we talk about Nazis so often on stream. I probably just accidentally. Yeah, sorry. No, not deniers. No. Sorry. No. The guys here, not Holocaust deniers. Students, or not students, sorry, studiers, professors of. It's their job to point out Hitler particles in other people, okay? There we go. Yeah, sorry. Okay, my apologies. Yeah. Scholars. Thank you. Yeah. No actual, like, anti-Semite would become a scholar of the Holocaust. Why would you? The thing anti-Semites like to do is deny the Holocaust. It would be counterproductive, to say the least, for your biased political ends. Benjamin, if you're going to be critical from the peanut gallery, why don't you go over there and contribute, okay? We're very pro-student protesters here, okay? Do you think fascists will come to the protest to make us look bad? We're staring at a column of them right here. This might be TOS, but apparently the pro-war protesters have set up a very big low-res screen to show footage from October 7th on repeat. This is the same thing that evangelical anti-choice abortion protesters do. They show like big gruesome photos of like bloody. They're usually not even like aborted fetuses. Aborted fetuses for the most, like when people have abortions for the most part, there's not even anything to show. It's just like Google bloody fetus pic or whatever, and they put that shit on 4K and they hold it up to try to gross people out. You know, it's the same shit, same strategy. Oh man, you're right. This really is low res. Jesus Christ. Oh man, you're using a projector in the middle of the day outside with nothing covering the screen. All right, I'm sure people will be very moved by this. Thank you, the Persian Jewess. That's great. Thank you. Phenomenal. That's great. Iranian Jewish refugee. These are the people I grew up around, man. God damn it. Really glad they're showing off the October 7th footage, though, because I personally hadn't heard of that, you know? I've never heard... You're telling me that on October 7th, Hamas attacked Israel? This is the first I'm hearing about it, so I do appreciate them letting me know, because I didn't know about that before. I'd never heard of that. What happened? I don't know. I'd have to learn about it more. Nobody's told me about this, so... 57 people were arrested and charged with criminal trespassing. All those charges were dropped, however, after Travis County Attorney Delia Garza, whose office handles misdemeanor cases, said her office agreed with defense lawyers that there were, quote, deficiencies with the probable cause arrest affidavits, which are the documents filled out by law enforcement to justify an arrest. You pigs. Piece of shit. Hey, based, by the way, that the county attorney did that. You know, they do this all the time with protesters. They arrest a fuck ton of people on bullshit charges, and then they get dropped immediately. They just want to disperse the protest. It's like a fear tactic. Like they want to break you all up, make you think your life is over. But as long as you stay calm and don't fight the cops, don't do it. Don't do anything that might give them a real charge. You know, if they grab you to arrest you, you go along with them. You don't fight them. None of that crap. Okay, don't talk. Don't yell, nothing. You go along, you smile, or you look stoic, you know? That's the job, all right? The charges against you will almost always be dropped, okay? Unironically ragdoll. No, stop. No, don't ragdoll. No, I said go along with them. Don't ragdoll. You're not doing anything by ragdolling. The cops are strong enough to move you anyway, I promise you. And ragdolling is resisting arrest. That is an actual charge. Plus, you could get hurt. Yeah, don't yell, don't scream. Look hard as fuck, okay? You want to look like you want to challenge your best like Black Panther Party member when you're getting arrested, okay? That's what you want, okay? You want to look hard as fuck for the camera. All right? Here we go. Black Panther Party arrest photos, okay? Cool as cucumbers. You see that? Look at that. You want to see another one? You want to see another one? Look at that. This guy, he knows where the camera is. He's looking. He's looking cool. He knows. He's not getting caught unawares. The beret is cool. Yeah, they love that shit. If you have a very nice leather jacket to wear while being dragged along by cops, that would probably also help. You know, just with regards to like looking hard as. Yeah, we just saw this, Quoteth. All the charges were dropped from the arrests at UT Austin, at least at first. Nobody's drippier in the Black Panther Party. Yep. You know, we're not going to get into fashion right now, but there are reasons for that. You could look like this today. Well, not quite that cool, but you know. So the next big thing here, the next big thing that everyone's looking at is what's going to happen with the dispersal order for the Columbia protesters. Is there an uncuttable material that bolt cutters can't cut through? No. There is no, like, permanent barricade against the police. There's no way to do that. Vibranium, yeah. I wonder how many people took the deal and left and signed this. The number of arrests nationwide on campuses is approaching 1,000. Jesus Christ. MX Dizzy, if you have an unironic disability that might be a liability for you in high stress or potentially violent situations, it might be for the best for you to stay, like, away from the front line in protests. Like, you can be surrounding the cops rather than in the group they go after. At all of these protests, including at Columbia, you have the core group right here, the Gaza Solidarity Group here in the tents, but all these students over here in the periphery, they're not the ones the cops are going after. These are just students milling about, you know? The reason they're surrounding the camp in the center is because they're protecting it. They're trying to surround it so that if cops show up, you know, they're showing solidarity. If the cops show up, you know, they have to go through these students as well, but they're not really at risk. I mean, I guess they could be. You're never completely free of risk, but yeah. When is it good to ragdoll? When is it not? I remember you praising doing so at climate protests. Those climate protesters were deliberately being obstructionist in the roads, and for that reason, they were already going to be resisting arrest. The strategy those climate protesters were engaging in was one that already involved the resisting arrest charge. That's not the case here. You know, these guys are doing a different thing. They're not obstructing. They're just occupying the university public grounds. So it's not a necessary component of what they're doing. Would you advise wearing PPE? I mean, sure, right? Most of the students here are in masks. I don't think the risk of getting COVID is that high if you're outdoors, even if you're in a big crowd, but why not, right? It probably won't do that much to prevent the university from identifying you. You're not a random protester. If you're a student at these protests, they can probably find out who you are. But, you know, doesn't hurt, I guess. I think they mean in case of tear gas. You know, I don't know how much you can do about that, to be honest. If the cops fired tear gas into this, they'd be cleared out pretty quickly. I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt. Yes, gas masks, helmet, body armor. No, I mean, it doesn't hurt, but you're not here to fight the cops. That's not what you're here to do. Nor should you be, because the cops will win. It makes you look more militant, too. It can make you look less sympathetic. It's a very long flagpole, you know, given a big wave right here. You don't want to fight the cops. You know, fighting the cops is like more of a riot situation than it is a student protest situation. You know, that's a different dynamic. If you take a look at images of the student protesters for against the Vietnam War, you'll find that most of them just looked like, you know, students of the day, like hippies with pants that were too big. At least in this lady's case. the vibe that you get from these is they didn't really come across particularly militant. I'm not saying they didn't always, just, you know, for the most part, what you see from these, you know, from these student protesters is they just kind of look like normal people from the day, you know? I think this is just a general anti-war protest, though, not a campus one. There are plenty of examples of campus protests. Of course, back in those days, local police weren't expected to be able to deal with riot conditions. Riot police didn't exist back in the 60s, right? So whenever there was big civil unrest, the National Guard would get called in a lot more quickly. Like, they didn't have cops that were, like, wearing, you know, massive tactical vests with the shields and the tear gas grenade launchers and everything. Their police officers back then were way more dressed down, way less militarized. And they weren't really equipped or trained to deal with riot situations. Not that modern police are either. Like, this is a cop back in the 1960s. Oh, African-American cop, no less. Well, that's great. Probably not indicative of the broader force, but, you know, for the most part, they were guys with, like, a pistol, a truncheon, a nice hat, and a big jacket, you know? That was their job was to stand around and look pretty. And also menace racial minorities, but let's not get into that for the moment. So if you had big events, you would call in the National Guard. Of course, the National Guard also don't have riot gear, but they do have guns. Japanese university student protesters from 71. Holy shit! The goddamn Pike Formation. Hell yes! Well, back in the 70s, weren't the Japanese dealing with, like, an unironic autocracy? I think the dynamic was a bit different back then. No? Oh, I might be thinking of Korea. Well, whatever. You know, Pike tactics are fun. But yes, there were tanks on the street in Detroit back in the 60s. That being said, the tanks they used back then were cooler than the ones today because they looked more dopey, you know? If I looked out my window and I saw, like, an old-style, like, taxi sedan alongside something that looked like this, that would just be like, this is peak urbanism right here, if anything. This is like, you look outside, you smile, you know? That isn't a tank. Shut up, nobody cares. There were tanks out there, too. There were tanks out there, too. I know it's not a tank. Here's a tank, fine. There you go, shut up. There you go. There's a tank, there you go. I know what a tank is, shut up. Also, nobody cares about this except for War Thunder nerds. That's actually a anti-tank with a mounted track and a turret. That's actually an armored personnel carrier with a 30mm cannon. F off. Go away. Go away. What a good mood today. Did I sleep well? For once. Wait. What happened to the live feed? Okay. Did the anti-apartheid protests in the 80s help? You mean in America? Do you mean South Africa? Where? It won't let me go live with this. You aren't live? Yeah, it won't let me. It pauses the video. Oh yeah, they're not live anymore. I wonder why. Okay, they did cancel. They did end the stream. I wonder if it just been going on for long enough. We can find it. Hold on 1 second. I can find it. I can find something comparable elsewhere. There's definitely more than one live stream going on there. From the New York Times, urgent question. What makes a protest anti-Semitic? Thank you. Cough, New York Times. Is this opinion? No, it's not. Pro-Palestinian student activists say their movement is anti-Zionist but not anti-Semitic. It's not a distinction that everyone buys. Thank you. The protesters link arms and march in formation toward 3 Jewish students who have come inside the encampment. Okay, quick question. Are they Jewish students? Or are they students who are holding, like, gigantic Israeli flags? Gonna answer that? Like, how did they magically determine these 3 people were Jewish? You can't really tell just by looking. Like, they are not sure precisely how the protest leader determined they were supportive of Israel. I just think they're lying. Like, fully, I just think they're lying. They're just like, yeah, the encampment just clocked all of us. Are you guys unironically making like big nose jokes? What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you guys joking? Do you think, like, we're literally covering disingenuous accusations of anti-Semitism, and you guys are like, oh, I know what'll really, like, clarify the conversation. Hold on, wait. I banned Spamlord59 for 7 days. Let me undo that really quickly. 1 second. There we go. Okay. Now let me permanently ban you. Sorry, that was my mistake. What the fuck has been happening lately in chat? Because there are like never IRL, always online, permanently online dipshits who have no like actual care for or attachment to any of these issues. So they think they're being like wizened irony lords, you know, by sort of like disaffectedly making these jokes. I don't even think it's like a genuine like Hitlerite thing or whatever. I just think these people need to grow up and touch grass. Genuinely. I don't know why anti-Semites would watch my content considering the crusade of 5 years against all like far-right ideologies, but you know. There's a link to a video at the top of the article. Maybe the evidence is there. No, it's not, and it's not a video. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators across the country say Israel is committing what they see as genocide against the Palestinian people, and they aim to keep a spotlight on the suffering. But some Jewish students who support Israel and what they see as its right to defend itself against Hamas say the protests have made them afraid to walk freely on campus. Hey, quick question. If the problem here is anti-Semitism, then why do you have to add who support Israel? Obviously, people who support the genociding country will be made to feel uncomfortable with all the anti-genocide protests. Like literally, like, you know. And they draw a distinction between anti-Zionism, which describes opposition to the Jewish state of Israel, and hatred towards Jewish people in general. It is an argument many Jews see as a fig leaf for bigotry. Why do you think the mainstream media isn't covering the fact that the majority of the Jews who are participant in these student protests are on the pro-Palestinian side? Why do you think they're not covering that? Manufactured narrative. They know they're lying. The New York Times has always been packed full of Zionists, by the way. Like, from not from the get-go, because they were pretty Hitlerite themselves, you know. But like the New York Times has a history of being incredibly bad about this. And that's because the New York Times are incredibly entrenched, like, institutional journalism, you know? The snootiest, most elite go on to write for this place. And as a consequence of that, there's a way more tie to like all of the systems of capitalism and bourgeois control that conservatives broadly occupy. The vast majority of these people are, of course, themselves not Jewish. It's just institutional power. It's anti-populism. The more removed from populism any media group is, the more removed from populism, like the more removed from the public trust any group is, the more likely they engage in this bullshit. Most Jews are Zionist. Most Jews have been subject to a lot of propaganda about how they're only safe in Israel, even though they're in America and are fine here, and Israel is constantly whining about how unsafe it is over there for some reason. But when it comes to like attitudes on the current protests, and who's participant in them, a lot of this is an age difference. The students who are protesting on these campuses are young and overwhelmingly left-leaning, and young Jewish people are overwhelmingly left-leaning, you know? There are tons of Jewish people who are on the right side of this conflict, but you will never, ever hear about it from this. You will just hear constant conflations between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Just non-stop conflations. Real question, is it not legitimate for Jewish students to voice their concerns when some of the protesters say stuff like go back to Poland and destroy Tel Aviv? Whether or not it's legitimate is irrelevant. That's like weasel language right there. The question is like, what is the meaning of the broader protest? If the meaning of that is like, oh yeah, there are some dumb fucks in these protests who are saying like sussy shit, sure, fine, that's the case. Though I still think basically no attention should be paid to it, because you could do that whataboutism with any protest. But the problem here is that that's not what's happening. You can't paint an entire movement as anti-Semitic because some Jewish students might feel uncomfortable with some of the language being used. We literally, earlier in the stream, saw a Zionist woman, an older woman, go to a college campus, look a college student dead in the eye and say, I hope they rape you. Like, where's the media frenzy about this? You won't hear it. It's because of the double standard. It's because there is a desperate effort to blow up every single instance of perceived or actual anti-Semitism to downplay the participation of young Jewish students in the pro-Palestinian protests, to always overstate one side and understate the other in the effort of manufacturing a narrative. This is what conservatives did with BLM. This is what McCarthyites did in the 50s with communists or with liberals who like even seemed a little pinko. This is what Hawks did with anti-war protesters. Non-stop shit. Non-stop shit. It's always this. Every time they want to tear apart a movement, this is how you do it. You call them anti-American. You overstate the harm of their protests, which you get with universities doing all these like safety concern bullshit. You know, you massively overstate any like negative engagement and pretend that's representative of the entire movement. You highlight the bad actors. You downplay the good actors. You have a bunch of people whose job it is to serve as a kind of like imagined group victim. How many, by the way, how many direct media testimonies have you heard from Jewish students who've said they feel unsafe? I haven't. I'm sure there are some, but I haven't. I've heard a lot of testimonies from people talking about those students, referring to those students. I've seen multiple articles whose only evidence for the claim that Jewish students felt unsafe was the fact that one rabbi said those students are unsafe and should be at home. That's not really evidence to any kind of claim. That's not like an evidentiary claim. That's just one guy said something, you know? They weren't even there. Always be careful about how these narratives are manufactured. And can you not tell the narrativization present in this article? It's dripping with it. I understand and absolutely support the Palestinian people in the movement, but it's just kind of scary to hear stuff like that as a New York Jew. It shouldn't be. These protests pose literally no threat to you. It just should not be. It shouldn't be. The pro-Palestinian advocacy does nothing to harm you. If you're worried that some of the people who are present at these protests might be anti-Semitic, I can assuage your fear. That is true, because anti-Semitism is a broad social issue. But that doesn't mean the protests themselves are like the cause of it or an instigating factor. There has been an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents, to be sure. We also have like a massive uptick in the prominence of the far right. And I imagine a lot of those hate crimes are from like the Arab nationalist types, you know? Not necessarily like pro-Palestinian lefty types, but, you know, just people who are on the other side of the religious war, basically. When do we get to hear about the safety concerns for Muslim students? Yeah, when Zionists can show up on campus and just say, like, yeah, I hope they rape you. You know, like, I don't know. This very article quotes a Jewish student who claimed to be unsafe at a protest, though. Not even. This very article, right here. Jimmy Hayward, a Columbia freshman who is not Jewish, said that he has many friends studying at the Columbia-affiliated Jewish Theological Seminary who are unnerved. I have friends in JTS that need to be walked to campus. They want me to walk with them because they don't feel safe walking alone. So it's an anecdote from a non-Jew saying that their Jewish friends feel like they need to be walked with. Again, I have to ask, how and why? What is eminently Jewish about them that makes them feel like are they wearing like Israeli flag shirts? Again, anti-Semitism is a real issue. I don't know where none of these claims would be admissible in court. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Literally scroll up. Where? I'm at the top of the subsection here. Now scroll sideways, right before the subsection. Many Jewish students are taking part in the current protests, saying they are doing so as an expression of their Jewish values that emphasize social justice and equality. Encampments have hosted Shabbat dinners and Passover seders. At Columbia, one student said that donors have supplied kosher meals. Samuel Law, a graduate student at the University of Texas at Austin who is Jewish and involved in the protests, was inspired by the encampments popping up around the country. I strongly believe the university should be there for us to care about what we care about. Well, that's nice. How could you parse this with the belief that the protests are anti-Semitic? Literally, like, if you're hosting Shabbat dinners, like, how could you possibly like reconcile those simultaneous? Like, yeah, you know, they're anti-Semitic. Never mind all that. There, yeah, well, there we have like a direct quote from a Jewish student. That's nice. I guess I appreciate them for including that. Signs in and around the Columbia encampment include inspirational quotes, including "The world belongs to the people and the future belongs to us," attributed to Jiang Qing, a Chinese communist revolutionary. But there are also celebrations of violence, like whoever is in solidarity with our corpses but not our rockets is a hypocrite and not one of us. Okay? Waving an Israeli flag is a celebration of violence. You're literally doing the pro-genocide bit. Ching, not king? Okay, ching. At the University of Michigan, some Jewish students said they felt rattled as they walked to class passing by protesters chanting long live the Intifada, using the word for uprising in Arabic, which has been used to describe periods of violent protest by Palestinians against Israelis. Okay? That sounds like a skill issue to me. Are you personally keeping your boot on the neck of the Palestinian people? I'm really sorry. Like, as long as Israel is doing the genocide, like, I don't, like, calling for an uprising is bad. Tessa Wexler, a Jewish student at the University of California, Santa Barbara, was alarmed to see at the school's multicultural center a sign on the door to a student lounge that said Zionist not allowed. Okay? Vaush, as a South African white student, I was scared of the anti-apartheid protests. It's literally that. That is literally what we're reading right now. As a Boer, as a Afrikaner, I feel threatened by the anti-apartheid protest. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. Look, I'm not saying I necessarily blame the Jewish students for feeling like a bit rattled, because I think it's normal to be irrationally rattled in high-tension situations sometimes, you know? Like, I understand that being like, you're a college student, you're young, I get it, okay. But, again, the way this is being weaponized by the media, like, for every tenuous claim of anti-Semitism, there should be giant, like, all-caps, 96-point font, New York Times articles screaming, they're hosting Shabbat dinners, how can they be anti-Semitic? The proportional representation of the information is not. This is an entire section about how Jewish students don't feel safe, and they're just picking anecdotes of nothing happening but of people feeling away. Meanwhile, the fact that they're hosting Shabbat dinners and Passover seders, just like the final paragraphs of this big section here, you know? You would think that in terms of, like, evidence to a claim of whether or not these protests are anti-Semitic, this is a pretty compelling argument that they're not, and it should be front and center. Meanwhile, a whole section gets dedicated to, like, feeling uncomfortable. I bet there are Jews who don't feel safe because the news tells them they're under threat. Yes, that's what's happening. A lot of this genuinely seems like the media trying to gaslight Jewish students into feeling threatened when there is, as of yet, no evidence that they actually are. The same New York Times pundits who will tell you that bipartisanship with the Republican Party is necessary, even though the Republican Party openly works with Nazis, will turn around and tell you to feel threatened by anti-genocide protesters by elevating a bunch of, like, hackneyed, dispersed, unsubstantiated, vague feelings of being threatened, trying to make you feel hysterical about that while they, gaslight you into not caring about the stuff that actually matters. Campus protesters dispute the notion that their movement has made pro-Israel students unsafe. I mean, if you're pro-Israel, obviously these protests are kind of targeting you, right? Nas Issa, a Columbia graduate who is supporting and advising protest organizers, sees a difference between feeling uncomfortable and feeling you're in danger. That is true, especially if you feel your identity is tied to the practices of a particular state or a political ideology. That is true. When pressed, the protesters say they're anti-Zionist but not anti-Semitic. It's not a distinction everyone buys. Let's take any other ethnic or religious minority, said Eden Yedigar, a junior at Columbia. Would you only accept them if they were willing to denounce an integral part of the religious and ethnic identity? Instant, you're out. Out. Journalism license revoked. You are being sent to the pit. This is not an integral part of your religious or ethnic identity. It is an ongoing genocide. This is like saying, you could apply this language right here to saying, being anti-white supremacy is denouncing an integral part of white person's ethnic identity. That is literally what they're doing right here. Also, Zionism in its current form and genociding Palestinians is not a part of the Jewish faith. Very sorry, it's not. For Zionist Jews, it's integral, though. That's literally like saying that genociding the Jews is integral to the Nazi ideology. So you're asking them to denounce an integral part of their... this means nothing. Zionism isn't Judaism. Judaism is a religion and a culture and blah, blah, blah. By the way, even if the genocide of the Palestinians was a part of their faith, you know what that would mean? that would mean that that element of anti-Semitism, being anti-genocide, would be justified. Because, guess what? You can't do a genocide just because your religious texts say you can. Obviously? Are you kidding me? Is that controversial? That's getting clipped. Shut the fuck up about whining about getting clipped. I hate seeing that from you guys. Jesus Christ. People have done worse for their religion and God. Isn't it genuinely insane how bad this article is? Want to substantiate that, Andre? I've never seen such a clear example of manufacturer consent in my lifetime. Yeah, it is one of the clearest examples that I have ever seen. I think this issue comes from the vagueness of the word Zionist. I don't care. You can be anti the state of Israel all you want. It's not anti-Semitic. It's just not. It's not. No identity gets to do this. No identity gets to say, actually, being anti my nation is anti my demographic. That's it. That's no other identity gets to do that. And we would never accept that from any other group, ever, under any circumstances. That essentialism is just blood and soil logic. It is just blood and soil. Did you see this? Pro-Israel agitator shouts, "Kill the Jews," gets everyone else arrested. Nice. Many such cases. Good for him. No, this person would have gotten the pro-Palestinians arrested. Around 100 protesters were arrested on Saturday at a pro-Palestine encampment at Northeastern University, but not the one whose hate speech got everything shut down. There you go, guys. There's an op. Okay, but Vaush, you have protesters telling Jewish people they should go back to Poland. Wasn't that literally one guy? Like one clip and one guy when there were student protesters all around the country? Also, like, was that even to Jewish people or was that to Zionists? Which group was that being said to? This is what I mean about the manufacturing consent. Like, you're going to do, well, here's one guy who shouted "Kill the Jews." Like, oh, wow, 100 people get arrested. Great. I don't care. And Ilhan Omar saying students who aren't with them are pro-genocide. That's true. That's pretty bad faith in part of the protest. No, it's not. If you are not on the side of the anti-genocide protesters, then you are pro-genocide. Or at the very least ambivalent to it, I guess, or ignorant of it. Like, yeah. But if you're actively against the protesters, then yeah. What began as a student demonstration 2 days ago was infiltrated by professional organizers with no affiliation to Northeastern. Last night, the use of virulent anti-Semitic slurs, including "Kill the Jews," crossed the line. She said, "We cannot tolerate this kind of hate on campus." GBH's Tory Bedford quickly confirmed that she had heard somebody say "Kill the Jews," but it wasn't the peaceful pro-Palestine protesters. The chant came from a pro-Israel agitator. So, I never want to hear about what any individual protester did or said ever again, guys. We are talking about the broader protest or the broader movement. I never want to hear about it again. If you focus on individual shit individual people say, you are the easiest to op in the world. You drooling dipshits would have been lumbering around back in the 60s, like at every pro-civil rights protest, waiting for one guy to run in there and go, I hate white people. I think black people are better than white people. I think blacks rule and whites rule. And then runs off and you'd be like, well, I was on board with the civil rights protests until that moment, but I have to say they really took it too far. And you would just be like nodding your head at all the news coverage of the guy, and everyone be like, see here, finally, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s cultists reveal what they really want, you know? Ugh. "Kill the Jews," yelled one person holding an Israeli flag. Anyone on board? Anyone on board? He was one of two counter-demonstrators who had affixed themselves to the center of the crowd. Everyone immediately booed the young man, but it didn't matter. That still got invoked in the crackdown. From the Huntington News. Breaking, Northeastern Vice President for Communications Renata Nyoll has released the university statement. The uni used that obvious counter-protester to justify police intervention. Even a guy who's this obviously an op, even a guy who's this straightforwardly, obviously not with the protesters, who gets booed immediately, still used to explain police intervention. Like, it's that easy.
Kill the Jews. Anybody on board? Anybody on board? You just chanted.
Congratulations, hundreds of anti-genocide student protesters. That one guy was then used as pretext for a police crackdown. There you go. That was it. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Hundreds of people aligned purely in their belief that Palestinian babies shouldn't be liquidated by American-provided munitions. This one guy, one clip, congratulations, you're going to jail. one bad apple spoils the bunch. It's more like having a bunch of perfectly clean apples and then like throwing a turd into it as like hard as you can, you know? The worst part is that guy wasn't even trying to pretend to be a pro-Palestine protester. He was just mocking them. That's how easy it is. Do you know how trivially easy it would be for an op to infiltrate any one of these student protests, to just dress as a student or be a student, pretend to be on their side, and then just rabble-rouse and get clips of it while their friends are like recording them so it makes it look like it's the broader crowd or whatever? Unbelievably easy. Unbelievably easy. Couldn't we use this tactic against Zionists? We don't need to. The Zionists already believe Hitlerite shit and say it, like that woman who said they wanted the student to get raped. But it wouldn't matter because the media wouldn't cover it. It's a two-parter. You need the agitators, and then you also need a dishonest media apparatus to cover it and blow it up. But we don't have control of the media, you know? Like, the Zionism as a sort of like broader ideological bias is represented, massively overrepresented in capital and in media. And for that reason, stuff like this gets elevated and taken way more seriously. Oh, hey, DM. Okay, so what's happening with Austin right now? People were saying, hey, Austin University, da-da-da. What's going on with that? Fox 4?
It's against America. This is against Western values. This is not just a Jewish problem. This is an American problem.
Are y'all all UT students?
All right, let's hear from the counter protesters that the Fox News reporter went to.
Wait, I have to look good.
How does this make you feel?
Say who you are. Do I say who I am?
Say what's your name?
I'm Jasmine Rad. This is Logan.
What are y'all with?
Fox.
Fox?
Oh, I like Fox.
All right, we'll talk to you.
Well, Fox? Oh, I like Fox. Yep, there you go. Yeah, that's about right. Yep, there we go. Yeah, yeah.
Greatest now. How does this make you guys feel? See, watching this happen.
This is really worrisome because
These counter-protesters seem very scared. Yeah, waving Israeli flags in the middle of a crowd, saying their name on television. These guys seem really terrified, you know? I bet they really perceive the real incredible threat of being attacked, you know? Smiling, you know, haha.
thought Texas would never let something like this happen, but here we are with hundreds of students standing up for something they don't know. They don't know what happens in Palestine. Half of these people would be stoned in Palestine. Women would not be.
We're just going to get like standard conservative talking points here, right?
Here, women would be sitting at home. It's really worrisome to see something.
Well, no, they wouldn't be sitting at home because their homes have been bombed, dipshit, actually. What do you mean sitting at home? They would be cowering in Rafah waiting for the Israeli ground invasion.
This happened, but we're really proud that the state of Texas, Governor Abbott, President Hartzell are able to come.
Leading people off, arresting them.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys want to see?
Well, if they're attacking police officers, they should escort them.
Can't there be a good debate?
Wait. There 100% is need for a debate, but when you have a group of people chanting for Intifada revolution, chanting for from the river to the sea, those are genocidal statements. That goes against Title IX, that goes against the conduct policies of the school. Right? It's okay if you get a permit and you go through the correct process and peacefully protest, but when you're chanting these genocidal statements, that goes against student policy, it goes against Title IX.
Wait, it's fine if you go through the process, but not if they say that it doesn't go against Title IX, by the way. So wait, you think they should do it like the right way, but you also don't think they should say this?
In the 1950s, 1960s, when on campus, when whites wouldn't allow blacks onto school, the president called in the state guard, called in the correct forces to allow them to come through because it goes against Title IX.
This is just like that, yeah. We need the National Guard to let Jewish students go to school or something. Also, blacks.
And we can't have that happen on our campus. No one's debating. We want a peaceful debate. We want to have these tough conversations. We understand that there are disagreements, but you can't have it when you're calling for.
It's really crazy how conservatives like aren't people, isn't it? Like she and him are both doing very different stock characters, but they're stock characters all the same. You know? This like whinging, insincere, feigning at civility politics, along with her sneering like, these queers don't even know how they'd be treated by the Muslims.
When you're creating genocidal statements. That's not okay.
It's heading the discussion a way to diffuse this whole situation instead of just doing the protest, or let the happen and have the discussion too.
The thing is, we've tried to talk to these people. They're the ones who don't want to speak to us. They're not pro-Palestine, they're pro-Hamas. They're anti-Jew and they're anti-American.
This guy looks like Hinkle, doesn't he? A little bit?
They're dangerous and this is not okay.
Are you all okay with the arrest of your classmates?
Yes. Yes, completely.
If the police presence wasn't here, they
Love that Fox News, by the way, is like talking to these guys rather than any of these guys. Keep in mind, we're looking at a tiny, tiny, tiny group. They're dangerous while waving a flag. Yeah, yeah, you guys look real under threat right now. Oh boy.
Can you back off? Like back up a little?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. You can talk to him if you want. Oh, that's so cute. That's adorable. Your giggle.
You are adorable.
Yeah, you are adorable.
How's it going over here?
Just people scuffling. What is going on? Democracy. God damn, man. What's really going on down there? LWD, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The insistence that Zionism and Judaism are synchronous is one of the most endangering things you could possibly do or say when it comes to Jewish people. The insistence that any attack on Israel, any criticism of it, any protest against it, any divestment from it is an attack on Jewish people is, in the minds of many people, like essentially an admission to the idea, which I don't believe in, that nobody should believe in, that anti-Semitism is in that like narrow window warranted. You're essentially saying like, well, the pathway to ending genocide is through anti-Semitism. And if that's the case, you're asking people to make like a decision where they have to decide, well, hold on now, which do I value more? In reality, that's bullshit, obviously, and that's the reason why the vast majority of the Jews that you see on camera in this live stream are with the protesters, not the counter-protesters. No getting around it. If you could somehow magically know who identifies as Jewish or whatever that it'd be easy clap, not even close. Okay, 100%. But no, the insistence from conservatives, no, actually, all of you are being threatened right now because this is an attack on you. All this does is endanger Jewish people, genuinely. How do you talk to a Zionist who says otherwise, that most Jews are Zionists? Most Jews are Zionists in the sense that a lot of them believe that, like, Israel, they have been fed an ungodly amount of propaganda, or they've gone on Birthright or whatever, and they've been told that it's like a safe haven for them. Most Jews aren't militantly Zionist. Like, most Jews aren't defending the IDF or whatever. That's a relatively narrow subset of them in the United States, you know? A lot of the Jews who are Zionist in a more like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, but I feel like we need a homeland kind of thing. Like, it's different than what we're seeing demonstrated here. The average Jewish Zionist would not be counter-protesting at these events, if that makes any sense. Yeah, exactly, John Paul. Most Jews are Zionists in the sense that most people are capitalist. It's not like an active intellectual process, you know. It's just like, that is like the default belief they hold. What is this? Rate Haas and Hinkle's fits. Yee. Oh my god, they look so short here. Good lord. I feel like coding things like this to be Jewish is itself anti-Semitic. Like, nobody knows these people are Jewish. No, you can't tell if a person's if a person's Jewish. You can't tell a person's religion. They're like, if people are like, oh well, what about if they look Jewish or whatever? In the same way that like you can make reasonable inferences about a person like maybe looking Muslim. First of all, not reliable like at all. You know, there are a lot of agnostic people who maybe ethnically would have traced back to religious communities like 100 years ago or whatever in the United States today. And you know, so kind of presumptuous that. And second of all, like, what the fuck do you mean? Like the vast majority of like what do you mean? Like they're a Jew. I grew up around Jewish Persian people, right? So they looked Middle Eastern, like to me, you know. I mean, I looked whiter than them by my perception, but a ton of the Jewish people that I see in media are white, like look just as white as me. So what do you like? On what metric exactly are we? You know, like how do they know? Do they have like a Jewish Geiger counter or something? Are they hearing the blips? I don't. Yeah. What about like Jewish looking people in the protesting side? You know. Well, unlimited solidarity with and support to those brave student protesters.